get closer and closer to the local government elections, all the focus tends to be on municipalities. Now, Stats SA has released findings into how much municipalities actually spend. It shows that while municipalities have somewhat increased their supply of water as well as electricity, they are not receiving enough return in terms of payment. For reaction on the findings, I'm joined by Mr. Sandile Swana from the Wits School of Governance. Mr. Swana, a very warm welcome to you. Now, before we look at the expenditure of municipalities, perhaps let's talk first about their budgetary allocations. What are the sources of funding for municipalities, and are they adequately capacitated to be able to take care of all that they need to in their municipalities?
Yes, indeed. The sources of funding for municipalities, first and foremost, is own funding. So, for instance, they sell water, they sell electricity, they charge rates, they sell all kinds of licenses. So that is what is called own funding. And there is a significant amount of money that goes in that direction, that comes from that direction. The other side of it is several types of grants, and these grants are actually calculating using population size, using the level of poverty in that area, etc., etc. So there is a degree to which the grants that get given from national government, especially, are actually compensating for other limitations, financial and economic limitations that a municipality might have. So I do not think that per se we need to be worried that the municipalities are generally underfunded. Our problems lie elsewhere.
Perhaps this might be a problem, and you'll tell us whether it is or not. The fact that municipalities are actually spending more on salaries than on actual service delivery. Is this something that South Africans ought to be concerned about?
Yeah, I did take a quick look at those figures. I think we need to, the relationship is not as straightforward as you put it. As an example, you need to be able to say, on average, the cost of producing a kiloliter of water is A, and this is the amount of labor that is being used to produce this volume of water. This is what Joburg does. This is what Toyando does in terms of those numbers, and so on and so forth. So those numbers don't work exactly like that. You need to itemize them per area of service so that you make sure that you have enough people to do the job and the labor is adequately spread out. So I don't think we can take that discussion in that direction.
So where then ought the money for service delivery be coming from?
The biggest challenge there are a few challenges, but let's start with the most straightforward challenge of municipalities. Municipalities and a lot of the bigger metros have already, in a big way, actually alleviated the problem. The problem where you have to make sure that the largest number of households are financially viable, which means the economic development and economic growth in the area make sure that people are able to pay for rates, they are able to pay for electricity, for water, and so on, so that the largest portion of even 80% of the portion of the income of the municipality is actually coming from viable residents and from viable businesses within the municipal area. The second area where municipalities need to be, because you can make money by saving money. In some of these municipalities, between 25 and 35%, I mean, I think Durban Metro used to play in this space. I don't know if they've solved the problem, where about 35% of the water that has been purified and ready for drinking is actually lost on the way to the users. So that whole money, the value added, is lost. So that money is unaccounted for, and it doesn't help with saving and making sure people are getting good quality service at an affordable. The same with electricity. There's a lot of leakage of electricity. The electricity does not go where it's supposed to go, and it doesn't earn the revenues it's supposed to earn. So there's a lot of leakages in the system of earning revenue for the municipality.
In September, in early September, while the Auditor General Maluleka was briefing members of Parliament, he said that municipalities failed to bring in their own funding and that there's an over-reliance on conditional grants. Talk to us about areas where municipalities ought to be bringing in their own funding and what are the loopholes there, because that particular statement infers that there is an expectation for municipalities to generate their own funding and not to rely on conditional grants to pay salaries, for example.
So there are, in essence, two specific duties that the municipality has that can make the municipality to have enough money or more money. The one falls under the category of local economic development, which I've already discussed, which is to say, make sure that households are viable, there's employment, people have got money to pay for services and to buy things from the municipality, as well as businesses are coming in to invest. That causes the municipality to have its own money. But a lot of the municipalities, even before we discussed that, a lot of the municipalities are mismanaging the money they are supposed to be making already. They don't know all the residents who are there, the properties out of which they are supposed to earn revenue, including their own properties that they are supposed to be renting out and making money. They don't have accurate records of that. In fact, they don't even have accurate records of all the assets that can make them generate money. The losses of water and electricity are not properly accounted for, and they are not being stopped from continuing. So all of those internal processes of the municipality, which can add billions to the sector, are actually not getting proper professional attention, and hence the municipalities get short of money.
Unauthorized expenditures seem to be quite, abounding in local municipalities, especially when the reporting happens. What the Auditor General spoke about here is the fact that revenue is often budgeted for, but even though this revenue is budgeted for and that budget is then later on approved, there's a problem with the collection of that revenue, which then leads to unauthorized expenditure. Talk to us about this dynamic and how this best can be circumvented.
Yes. When we talk about authorized expenditure, first of all, it simply means that you are spending the money according to how it was budgeted. So that approved budget is a budget that is also agreed to by the community, that the communities, the residents and the businesses in that area and organizations that operate have agreed that this is how the money is going to be spent. Now, the way to keep on track, as it happened, for instance, in Alexander Township, when the residents were working closely with ward councillors and municipal officials in the Alex Renewal Project, we saw very good reports. The money was going exactly where it's supposed to go at the time it's supposed to go. The minute that joint cooperation ceased, then the project entered into all sorts of standards. That same principle applies to every aspect of municipal expenditure in every part of the country, and that is the biggest problem. For as long as communities do not understand that they are supposed to watch over the shoulder of councillors and over the shoulder of municipal officials continuously, then the money is going to go astray.
The 1st of November is literally just around the corner. What should citizens be considering when they decide who to vote for? We know that a lack of service delivery is the bane of many South Africans. What are the considerations that they should be making during this time?
All of us, we should be reading reports such as the one from Status Aid that we are looking at. We need to be reading the reports from the Auditor General. You need to look at your own life, that since this particular party came into power, how much of my quality of life has improved, how much has my income improved, how much of my wealth has improved, how much of the services and quality of services has improved. We tend not to look at that. We tend to vote almost religiously without actually attending to the hard facts.
Mr. Sandile Swana, thank you very much for your time and your insights. He's from the Wits School of Governance. As we make our way to the 1st of November, our focus really being the upcoming local government elections.